past weekend. We're now joined by Marc Daniels, UCF Hall of Famer, by the way, inducted now and voice of UCF athletics. And Marc, thank you so much for your time. What was that scene like at the bounce house on Saturday?
Well, look, it was a great, it was a great day for a lot of reasons. Obviously, the outcome, the way the game had gone, beating a ranked team, space a game for UCF, which is pretty special around here. And then, celebration on what was a tough day weather-wise. I mean, fans sat through a torrential downpour in the second quarter. And, feel a good moment on a season that started off really well and, had a bump midway and maybe it's turning on the upswing right now. But it was, the football game where things that had gone against UCF during the stretch of these Big 12 games where you're turning the ball over, you're not converting the big third down, you're missing a tackle, all goes the other way. And some of those things began to fall into favor for UCF. They capitalized on Oklahoma State turnovers and then had some great performances, obviously by R.J. Harvey, John Plumlee, and the defense played its best game of the season. So all those things together led to what became a very lopsided football game.
Marc, how much of this is, sometimes a unit can get so kicked in that their pride is challenged and all these things that in the moment where you feel like, okay, this is the worst matchup for them because Ollie Gordon has been running through people like tissue paper, and this has just not been a good thing. Did it just come down to, you know what, not today? And they just had that moment where it said, I don't care what happens after, these 60 minutes, but today we're going to go get Ollie Gordon.
I think it's some of that. I think it's also UCF made some defensive adjustments. Look, teams that run the ball successfully in UCF to pretty big numbers, and they were successful running outside the tackles. UCF, I think, made some adjustments to kind of avoid that, where it wasn't, as open for guys to run. And then a couple of things happen, guys. UCF takes the ball, scores up 7-0. Oklahoma State has moved the ball down the field, being a little bit pass first on that drive. Then Ollie Gordon gets stripped, and UCF recovers, and they scored 14-0. Now the game's changed a little bit. I'm not saying Oklahoma State abandoned their efforts to run, but it was a case I think UCF was more like, okay, let's see if they're going to beat us throwing the football. They had some passes against a zone that opened up, but Ollie Gordon got himself stuffed a few times. I think he got frustrated a little bit, and then maybe the emotion of, hey, this is now starting to click. And then I think they benefited, obviously, from the turnovers. Look, a key moment, it's 24-0. Start of the third quarter, Oklahoma State drives down, opted to kick a field goal instead of maybe going for a touchdown. And then they get a hit, fumble, and they recover. And I'm sure Mike Gundy's thinking, hey, we score here, it's 24-10. They got to psychologically begin to think about, for example, a Baylor football game. Well, tip ball interception. And then R.J. Harvey goes 92 yards, and that's just kind of how the day went for UCF. But I do think there's something to the snowball where your defense begins to gain some confidence, and guys begin to realize, hey, we can do this. And then you have some success on doing stuff, and some, guys step up and make big plays. And I think UCF hopes that's the case now as they move forward in these final two games of the regular season, trying to get at least one more win to be bowl eligible.
R.J. Harvey's had a lot of nice rushing performances, but what is it about these last 5-6 weeks in particular? He flirted with 100 yards throughout the first half of the season, but he's on a tear right now. 133, 101, 100, 164, 206. Just everything kind of gelling offensively. Is that the case?
Yeah, it hasn't had a guy like that since Kevin Smith was doing it for 2,000 years ago. And the thing about R.J., again, he's a great story. I think we discussed before, is a high school legend quarterback here. Went to Virginia, transferred to UCF, was going to be the starting quarterback a couple of years ago, blows out his knee, isn't even sure he's going to play football, battles to get his way back in the mix last year, and this year has just taken it to a different level. He's strong, physical guy. I say sometimes in a broadcast, some of his best runs are just getting back to the line of scrimmage. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what stood out in the last several weeks, patience. UCF has moved a lot of bodies around the offensive line. We started our fourth different player at center on Saturday, but it's patience of allowing a hole to open and then taking advantage of that, and then a cut here and a cut there. And he's just been an absolute game changer for UCF. Tremendous confidence. He's eighth in the country now in rushing in a conference that's so good with running backs. So UCF's going to see one, Texas Tech this week. But he's an easy guy to root for. The 92-yard run, he showed an extra gear that I think surprised some people as he was, breaking free and the final 40 yards. So he's been a confident guy, but I think his patience has really stood out. Plus, the other thing, guys, the last couple of weeks, it's a healthier John Rice Plumlee. Now the passing game is now you got to take into account for that, and I think that's helped RJ as well.
How much do you feel like the experience of this first year? There have been the ups and the downs, but obviously what that was unbelievable what they accomplished. How much now does Gus feel what they need, knowing what they now need, the attrition and the long schedule of the Big 12?
You can read about it. You can have people project what's going to happen, but you got to go play it, guys. And I think UCF has seen firsthand about areas that they know that they've got to continue to recruit, combination of the portal, combination of high school. And right now, Gus is in a position to have a top 30 class. It would be the highest rated class ever for UCF. But I think they've experienced now the quality of offensive lines that they've gone up against, defensive lines in depth, the size of safeties that you're seeing guys that are 6'2", 220 and things like that. So now you've experienced it. But I think in the sense, look, your record's what it is. I mean, UCF's 5-5, they're 2-5 in the conference. But I think, and everybody can play this game, the one game that UCF was in, that was the Kansas football game. They got blown out. You can't sugarcoat that. Kansas State, with the ball fourth quarter down by one score. You make a mistake here on the road, they win. The Oklahoma game, you're right in the football game, obviously, there. The Baylor game, you guys know what happened there. The West Virginia game, you've got the ball late third quarter, down 3 with momentum. They get a blindside hit, fumble, and score right afterwards. So you've been in really every Big 12 game except the Kansas football game, and yet the difference of what you're seeing may be deeper defensive line, bigger offensive line, more experience in certain areas. So I think it's not that you feel good about where the record's at, but I think Gus and his staff say, okay, we got an idea now where we've got to continue to upgrade and get more depth in order to compete in this league. But I think they also feel like, look, we've been in most of these games. And as you guys know far better than UCF does, so many Big 12 games come down to a possession or a few plays here or there, the difference of having a really good season versus not having a good season. So I think it's been a great learning experience to figure out where you are and where you've got to go. But at the same time, I don't think UCF feels like, man, this is a 5-year building project.
Yeah, I don't think with that recruiting hotbed that they have too in Florida that they should worry about that either. Like that you can get some guys to come in there pretty quickly and maybe solve some deficient areas. Mark, what do you think that they might? I mean, I don't think they're going to, I'm not saying change coordinators, but bend some things a little bit schematically to change who they're going to see most of the time based on who they saw most of the time in the AAC.
Well, I think you get a better idea about the styles and philosophies of the team you play. Again, you could read about it, you can talk to coaches that have played against, but then you got to go play these games to get an idea. And look, I'm a big believer you become who your competition is. And I mean, it doesn't mean you're stuck in the middle of the pack, but, when UCF goes to the American, those teams become who you're competing against. You measure your talent versus them, and that's what the league is. It develops a personality. The Big 12, as you guys know, for years, hey, we're just going to fling it up and down, and all of a sudden people began to play defense. You find some great running backs. So I don't think it's wholesale changes as far as a philosophy standpoint. I think it's a case of we've got to just get some depth in areas, continue to recruit high-level players, and as you said, in the state of Florida, that's something that UCF will have an opportunity to do. But I don't think Gus has changed his vision of what he wants to build. I just think they have a better idea seeing it firsthand, like, okay, maybe we thought we needed 2 or 3 at this position. Maybe we need 3 or 4 and things like that. Because you can find quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers to play in this system and so forth. But do you have the quality and depth at linebacker and at safety? And, if somebody goes down on your defensive line, do you feel like you've got that kind of depth? And I think UCF is learning about this league that you've got to be able to have that sustained depth in case you lose somebody. So, again, I don't think it's a change of philosophy. I think it's, hey, we're growing. We know where we want to go. Let's keep adding pieces to it.
Mark, at 5-5 now, 2 cracks to get bowl eligible. Just given the 5-game slide there in the middle of the season, how huge, and the first year in the Big 12, how big would that be to get bowl eligible, first of all? And just thoughts on, heading to Lubbock for the first time coming up this weekend and that being the first of these 2 cracks at it.
Yeah, look, it'd be fantastic. And again, I always believe that seasons are jerks. If you tell somebody a record, it doesn't tell the story until I tell you where you were and how you got there. And I think for UCF, you get off to a good start. You win a good game at Boise, and you kind of think, how good may they be? And, they've had an up and down season. And they experienced a 5-game losing streak. Gus had never experienced that. There's not a single player on UCF's team that ever experienced that, in their time. And then you fight hard against a rival in Cincinnati. You win a game there. You feel better about yourself than you have a game like you did against Oklahoma State. And now you're like, wait a minute, okay, maybe we are who we thought we were going into the beginning of the season. But the answer to your question is it would be fantastic. They've got a chance to go on the road here against a Texas Tech team that also wants to be bowl eligible. They've got Texas coming up the next week. You can imagine they know how important it is to try to get a home win. A very good running back there. 2 head coaches that know each other quite well. Obviously, Gus was an incredibly successful high school coach in Arkansas, while Coach McGuire in Texas. Gus mentioned in his press conference yesterday he recruited players from a coach's high school. I think he said his stepmom worked at the school. So there's some familiarity there, respect. And, I think UCF fans know about the history of going to Lubbock as far as the great crowd support. I think it's going to be exciting. Look, I say this, guys, and I hope fans that have come to UCF, I have loved our journey through the Big 12. Like we talked about what kind of year you anticipated on the field. I look forward to going to some of the new places, and the fans have been nothing but incredible in all the places we've gone to. We've heard about the hospitality in Lubbock. I think we look forward to that. And I think fans such as Baylor fans that came to Orlando, West Virginia fans, Oklahoma State fans, I hope they've experienced a good time as well. So we're excited about it. I think UCF's got this new sense of confidence that, hey, things that we know we can do, well, we've got to do. They know they got a tough matchup against another team in the same situation, trying to get a 6th win. So I think it's the makings of a really good football game, and UCF would love to go on the road, get a win, and come home, play Houston, and try to keep that thing going. And, again, you got to earn it, but if somehow you win at Lubbock, you come home and you beat Houston, and you're 7-5, and you go to bowl game, and if you can win that, then you go from 5-game losing streak to a 5-game winning streak into an offseason where you feel really good about yourself.
Mark, we're also glad you're a part of the Big 12. You've been one of the great guys that we've gotten to know, along with other voices of programs and other coaches. Thank you very much. Congrats on a great win, and good luck in Lubbock. Thank you for your time, and congratulations again on the actual induction into the Hall of Fame. You're the best. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
Marc Daniels, voice of UCF Athletics. Mac Rhodes.